Hello there, people of the internet. By golly, it is cold out here. I'm gonna take these off because they are choking me to death. So I am, just as my own little personal stake, I am currently looking to get myself a piece of property. I want it to be, nothing on it, basically just completely woods, like that right there. And upon doing so, I thought it'd make a really fun little video to go ahead and talk about this. I have a good amount of different kinds of firearms that I could use for this occasion, but I like the idea of this. So the idea of the piece of property, although I might stick something on it later down the road, the idea of the piece of property is basically just to have a spot where I can do like bushcraft and camping and off the grid kind of things, and basically just have a place to go and play around at, right? And my buddy had said that I was basically going to be like living the frontier life whenever I stay there, and I will likely be doing something pretty similar to that. I'm not quite sure 100% what all I'm going to do there, but I know I want a piece of property that I can play around on. So I'm going to be looking for a piece of property that I can play around on after I, pay off medical bills and get out of debt and, cover myself, cover A to B, then I'll start looking into C. But although that's down the road, that's not going to stop me from talking about this. I was thinking about what would be a really good frontier gun, and that's what this video here is actually going to be about. Like I had said before, I have so many different good options. Wow, it is really cold out here. I have so many different good options in terms of what I could potentially use as a frontier gun. But here in the state of Florida, my biggest issue is going to be like panthers. Potentially, way more likely, I'm going to come across hogs or something, especially in the area that I'm looking to buy this piece of property at. Definite possibility. And in all honesty, an AK-47 would probably be the best frontier gun. Not necessarily for my situation, but I'm thinking like if you were actually in a frontier situation where you were living off the land for, months or years at a time, and you needed a gun to basically do everything. You're not worried about defending yourself from other people. You're not worried about fighting house to house. Your biggest worry is using that firearm to sustain your way of life, using that firearm in a frontier lifestyle kind of setting. Your biggest use of that firearm for defensive purposes would be against whatever critter it is that you come across who decides that it feels like doing you harm. An AK-47 would be a really good choice, and honestly, that would probably be my top choice, but it's also a boring choice. So I decided to go ahead and choose this out of everything it is that I have. I have a lot of really good options, but this right here is a monumentally good option just because of something that I'm going to cover here in a second. This is a single shot shotgun. Why the hell would I pick a single shot shotgun out of absolutely everything that I have? First off, ammo versatility. Yep, and ammo versatility can be used in basically any kind of shotgun. It doesn't really play a specific role specifically in single shot shotguns, but there is one thing that made me look at the single shot shotgun and say, you know what, if I wasn't using this, to fend off other people who are armed to the teeth with modern day weaponry, then this right here would actually be a really good option. And this is why. Let me show you guys this. You might not know these exist. This is a shotgun adapter. This right here is a 357 Magnum shotgun adapter, and they make all sorts of different calibers and all sorts of different gauges. This is a 20 gauge single shot shotgun. Personally, I would prefer a 12 gauge, but I actually do not own a single shot 12 gauge. Out of everything I own, that's the one thing that I do not own. So I might actually be looking into getting myself one of those, but for the area that I'm in, a 20 gauge will be more than adequate to handle whatever it is that I come across. But 20 gauge is not always available, and 12 gauge, I don't know, you might be, like I said, living off in scenic nowhere. And maybe where you're at in the frontier lifestyle, you can't have access to different kinds of shotgun shells. Well, if you have access to any kind of ammunition, you can get yourself several different kinds of these adapters right here. We got 357, 38, we got 45, we got 9mm. I've seen them in rifle calibers as well. I've seen all sorts of different shotgun adapters to where you can convert your single shot shotgun to fire basically any kind of ammunition that I was gonna say that fit in the chamber, but a 12 gauge shotgun can fit a 50 BMG, so I wouldn't recommend using that. But you know what you get what I'm trying to say here. So the idea is very simple. You just have the shotgun adapter and you just pop it right into the back of your chamber, and then you can load 357 shells or whatever it is that your adapter is attuned for. Like I said, 45, 9mm, 38 special, 22 long rifle. I've seen conversions to 223 7.62 x 39. I don't think I've seen one in 308, but they could potentially exist out there. I'd be surprised if they didn't. With all the different kinds of adapters, there is basically no kind of ammunition that you could not fire out of this thing. Now, I went with a single shot because whenever you have a pump action running through these adapters and loading them into your shotgun is quite difficult. Having a single shot definitely makes that way easier to load and unload these adapters. Although here in the state of Florida, there isn't really anything that a 20 gauge shell couldn't handle. I mean, 20 gauge, you have a whole plethora of different kinds of shells, and everywhere from like various kinds of birdshot, turkey loads, different kinds of buckshot, slugs. You'll be able to handle whatever it is that you're running to handle. But if you can't find the ammunition, then hey, you have the adapters, so you can go ahead and use whatever kind of ammunition that you just so happen to have on your person or available to you. Like, for example, I have several shotgun adapters in several different calibers for ammunition that I have, but I do not actually have a firearm for. Over time of collecting these different firearms and ammunition, that's just one of the things that happen. You get a bunch of ammo for guns that you literally do not have. Or, yeah, you get ammunition for guns that you do not have. That's the end of that statement. Cold here, scrambling my brains. I also want to point out that in your single shot shotgun, also with your pump action shotguns, basically any kind of shotgun, the shells are quite easy to make, quite easy to load, quite easy to reload. You can use smokeless powder, you can use black powder, you can load whatever it is that you want in this shell. You could load this thing with rocks, with BBs, with pellets, with little screws. You could load it with whatever it is that you want. The unbelievable list of versatility is exactly why I decided a shotgun would be the good way to go if you are choosing yourself a frontier firearm. Now, these shotgun adapters, although they are short, there are ones out there that are quite a deal longer, and they also are rifled, so you could very much turn your shotgun into quite the accurate little weapon if you're trying to touch out to distances that are beyond what a shotgun would normally be capable of. Alright, so I have some 7.5 shot here. I'm just gonna shoot these bowling pins. Maybe I'll lob around down at the car. I got 3 shells. I thought I had more than that. I got 7.5 and a couple of 8-shot shells, but these are what I'm going to go ahead and launch downrange. See if I can adjust my camera here without it falling over. You stay right there now. Don't go anywhere. So first off, our bowling pin right here. She looks like she needs a little bit of love. That bowling pin. I think that bowling pin just got taken out. Also, my shotgun is in fact held together with a little zip tie. Thanks for noticing. Now, in the event that you are under pressure, these single shot shotguns, although they are not as fast as like pump actions and semi-automatic, they can still be loaded quite quickly if you are well adversed and practiced with it, and if your hands aren't absolutely frosty like mine are. Bang. That's not a bad reload time, especially if you have already shot whatever's coming at you with whatever it is that you had in your gun. Oh boy. But yeah, single shot shotgun. This would make a fantastic frontier firearm. But like I said, I have so many different good options, but just the unbelievable levels of versatility of this thing. If you're not, going up against other people, and if your targets aren't shooting back, then this right here is a very good option. Okay, well, I think I've made my point. There's just so many good options out there. And this right here might not be the best option, but it's definitely far from the worst option. Like I said, I think the best option would be just an AK-47. That's something that you could do everything with. But the one thing that I think about with the AK-47 is small game. 7.62 x 39 is not really ideal for taking out like squirrels and possums and raccoons and things like that, you're not gonna have much left for eating. And if you're on the frontier, you definitely want as much of whatever game it is that you're going after as possible. 7.62 by 39 would basically have you ever seen what happens whenever a 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum hits a watermelon? I bet you have at one point in time, but a 7.62 by 39 would do something very similar to a squirrel and most of your other small game. So some simple bird shot through a 12 gauge would definitely be a far better option. And speaking of birds, hitting a bird with a 7.62 by 39 is way more difficult than hitting it with a 12 gauge or 20 gauge shotgun. And you definitely want to be able to hit as many targets as possible with your very limited ammunition. Alright, well, I think that this right here is where I'm going to go ahead and leave this video off. Thanks for watching, folks. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. I'm very cold. Description down below has a link to all sorts of different things. Go check that out. That being said, I'm going inside. I'm gonna go build me a fire. You guys go up, have yourself a fantastic day. It's like, hell, I think it's like it's into 30s right now. But I gotta be somewhere later, and I wanted to come out here to the range. So I'm out here at the range. You guys go off, have a fantastic day. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.